Oh, somebody's pressed. Thank you.
We're good.
Gina's not on the call. For the record, that was me.
Thank you, Grant.
Okay, and that is a reminder, which I should have done at the beginning as well, of just reminding members that this meeting is being recorded. Okay, so approval of the agenda. Item 10A will be deferred. That's the CAO update on climate change. And CAO Sharma and Chair Johnson are attending the Niagara Regional Council's Committee of the Whole budget review tonight. So that item will have to be deferred. So we will ask for approval of the agenda as amended. So that's deferring 10A. Recommendation number PAC 30, 2021. John Musso, I will ask you to move. And is Erica's with us? So Erica, I'll ask you to second. Any opposed? And seeing none, the agenda for November 25th, 2021 MPCA Public Advisory Committee meeting be adopted as, I would assume, Grant, amended with the deferral of 10A. That's carried. Moving on to 2 declarations of conflict of interest. I missed you, Donna.
I know. It's just, my opinions are my own and not that of my employer. Thank you.
Thank you. As noted, Donna has made a declaration. Okay, moving on to item 3, approval of minutes. So we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. The first being minutes of the Public Advisory Committee meeting dated October 5th, 2021. And that's recommendation number PAC 31, 2021. And I'll ask Joe to move, and seconded by Natalie. Is Natalie with us? I did this ahead of time. Hey, Donna, I will ask you to second on that. Comments or questions? Any opposed?
Sorry. Can I second minutes I wasn't at?
Oh, no, you were. Thank you very much. I think that we should probably ask someone else. Thank you for that.
I'll second.
Okay, Harry will second. Any opposed? Seeing none. The minutes of MPCA Public Advisory Committee meeting dated October 25th, 2021, approved. Is carried. Harry, I'll put your name here. There we go. Okay, moving on to the minutes of the Watershed Floodplain Subcommittee meeting for October 5th, 2021. Since we don't have or haven't had a subcommittee meeting for a little while, we thought that this should move forward and just get these approved. So this subcommittee is Erica, Dion, Harry, Donna, Joe, and myself, I believe. So for recommendation number PAC 32, 2021, I'll ask that Joe move and that Harry second, that the minutes of the MPCA Watershed Floodplain Subcommittee meeting dated October 5th, 2021 be approved. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Wow, we're just zipping along, guys. Okay, on to item 4, which is correspondence, and we don't have any. So we'll move on to presentations, which is item 5. Jeffrey Brigade is with us, and he's the MPCA Senior Manager, Integrated Watershed Planning and Information Management. And he will provide a background on the item highlighting the partnership with Niagara Coastal Community Collaboration, and will introduce Gregory, who will speak and present a short video. So welcome to Gregory and Jeffrey.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair O'Black, and through you, just to provide a little bit of context here. This partnership kind of grew out of an interest by the authority to collaborate and begin to advocate about shoreline resiliency on our Great Lakes shorelines that we have our regulatory role on. So the provincial government last year around this time awarded us a project that we kind of pitched collaboratively through the Great Lakes Local Action Fund. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Greg today to share a little bit more about that. It's been a wonderful experience. There's a lot of good things happening through it. We had a specific visit by Minister Piccini this summer, as well as MP Sam Osterhoff, who really enjoyed this. Right there on the beach, they captured a little bit of a Twitter video there, which I was quite frankly amazed how quick on his foot Greg was. But that's what I've come to appreciate about Greg through this partnership. He's the executive director at Niagara Coastal. Niagara Coastal has the shoreline of Lake Erie quite mobilized in terms of the community groups there. So that was something strategic we really wanted to partner with. Glad this opportunity came about. And before I hand it over to Greg, I believe he's going to share his slide deck, and at the end we'll do a little bit of a switch. We have a promotional video that I will run from my machine, so there's going to be a little bit of lag there on the sharing. And without too much further ado, I just want to personally thank Greg for his involvement and leadership in all of this. It's been fantastic working with him, and yeah, he honestly is the one who's carrying the torch on this. We're very fortunate to be working with them on it, and that's largely because of Greg's passion for this and his ability to run it the way he has. So Greg, take it away.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Chair O'Black. Thank you all for having me here today. I'm going to run you through a presentation that I've had the opportunity to give a few different times, including at a Lake Ontario Partnership webinar series. And this project, as Jeff has said, has really sort of caught fire a little bit throughout the Great Lakes. So without further ado, I think I'll share my screen if I have access to do so and take us through. Okay, and we can all see this okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, some of this might be a bit repetitive, but bear with me, we'll get through it. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gregory Ford, and I'm the Executive Director of the Niagara Coastal Community Collaborative, as Jeff introduced me. So I've been invited here today to talk about the VAST program that we launched in tandem and how community scientists across the Niagara shoreline have been monitoring shoreline changes and filling knowledge gaps across the Great Lakes over the last summer. First off, I'd like to extend a big thank you for the invitation to participate in this committee meeting, and I would love to introduce who the Niagara Coastal Community Collaborative is. We are a collective approach to environmental governance that brings together ENGOs, educational institutes, community groups, and multiple levels of government with a common agenda of optimizing and expanding local capacity and action to build a healthy and resilient Lake Erie coastal ecosystem. So in working to accomplish these goals, we've identified three major priorities for our organization. The first being nature-based shorelines. So this includes the preservation and restoration of natural shoreline areas as mitigating barriers to the impacts of climate change, as well as providing habitat. Our second is healthy beaches, which includes activities that have us undergo an identification of local sources of pollution that impact the shoreline, like phosphorus, E. coli, algae, and other contaminants of concern. And third is habitat and species, which sees us determining local ecosystems, or locally significant ecosystems, and mitigating the impacts that local threats are having on the shorelines and the species. This includes things like shoreline erosion and overdevelopment and hardening of some shoreline areas. So using these priorities as our guiding principles, we are effectively a group of groups that works together to address our shared concerns about the Great Lakes. One of the ways in which we do this is through our community science initiatives like VAST. And just to set the stage, community science is there's been a movement to adopt the term community science in lieu of citizen science. So For this presentation, community science and citizen science are the same thing. So the VAST project can be traced back to the formation of the collaborative in 2017. But first, as a little bit of context, in Niagara, our public health authority will often post beaches as unsafe for swimming solely due to the amount of algae that washes ashore in a given period. This means that oftentimes during the height of the summer, as nuisance Cladophora algae washes ashore, people are directed away from their favorite beaches, similar as though the beach was posted due to bacterial contamination. There are many reasons behind the practice. As the Cladophora grows, it's sheared off, it washes ashore, and it's exposed to the heat and sun, and it begins to decompose. As it decomposes, it creates an oxygen-deprived area of the sediment that can act as a breeding ground for potentially harmful bacteria like E. coli and even bacteria causing botulism. It is because of this washout, alongside shoreline areas experiencing high erosion, declining benthos health, and a variety of other factors, that Environment and Climate Change Canada identified the Niagara shoreline of Lake Erie as a shoreline experiencing moderate stress in their cumulative assessment of nearshore waters in 2017. As a result of this, Environment and Climate Change Canada approached a number of groups in Niagara to engage in collaborative discussions that would eventually lead to the formation of the Niagara Coastal Community Collaborative. At our inception, once we were organized, we worked with Environment and Climate Change Canada to create a method to track nuisance Cladophora algae washout across the shoreline of Lake Erie. This is done because it's an indicator that will allow us to support the establishment of nutrient reduction targets for the eastern basin of Lake Erie. Very quickly, this method involved teams of volunteers monitoring select shorelines along the Niagara coast using simplified quantification of algae along random transects of our beaches. Participants were asked to note a series of observations about the algae, where it extends on the wet beach, so where the water influences, on the dry beach, where the water does not influence, and in the near shore. They were also asked to note what color the algae is, how old does it appear, as well as general observations about the area during their survey, and to provide photographic evidence of what they're seeing. In 2020, as the pandemic hit, we wanted to develop, as the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we wanted to develop a system that would allow people to continue monitoring alone rather than in pairs, with less equipment, all to minimize the risks that our participants would be exposed to COVID-19. We had also noticed a lot of other shoreline issues occurring across the Niagara shoreline, like shoreline erosion and wash-up of other things. And so we prototyped what would eventually become the VAST platform. VAST is the Visual Assessment Survey tool. It engages coastal populations, community groups, and other organizations in collecting data to fill knowledge gaps for the shorelines of the Great Lakes. The data is shared publicly to help coastal managers and members of the public make informed decisions about their shorelines. Just a quick acknowledgement that this initiative would not be possible without the support of partners here, like the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, partners like Niagara College Canada, and with generous funding from the Ontario's Great Lake Local Action Fund. But why engage the coastal community in this program? A large part of it is that the members of the local community are the experts. They know a lot more about their favorite shoreline than I do. And they've visited their favorite beach year after year, and they've seen firsthand how quickly things can change and degrade with occurrences of algae washout and shoreline erosion. So by engaging the coastal communities in this project as the front line, we're tapping into a rich network of strong local knowledge, and we're all starting to work together to address these issues. Science, storytelling, and technology are blended together for the VAST project in efforts to create a near real-time coastal monitoring network. Each area of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario has unique issues that it faces, making a single management approach impractical. Additionally, some areas are changing so quickly that the most recent data that we have from aerial imagery, like our swoop imagery, may no longer be valid and is out of date and can be costly to get access to the data that we need. So the real power of the tool comes from its extended use as a coastal decision support tool. So near real-time coastal observations can be collected by community scientists, used by coastal managers to inform things like restoration, policy, and the strategic direction of coastal decisions. Obviously, the importance of coastal monitoring is well known, but coastal managers like the NPCA or Environment Canada often lack the capacity to visit all of the sites that we monitor at regular intervals to monitor occurring changes. So by leveraging the community, we're able to achieve more frequent and higher resolution monitoring of all of the sites. We check all of the user data against regular drone flights of priority shore areas as a quality assurance, and both so that we're able to view changes over time. To contribute is really easy. Participating community scientists are encouraged to visit our web platform, go to their favorite shoreline with their cell phone, take a few photos, and answer a survey about what they're seeing, whether it be algae or erosion or static beach quality. The data is then uploaded to the VAST Explorer mapping service, creating that real-time coastal monitoring network I was talking about earlier. To make this project a little bit easier, we played with the idea about installing VAST stations at NPCA properties. These stations originally included a phone dock, as well as all of the information a participant would need to get involved. But due to some logistic issues and the fact that they're not exactly the most appealing things to put into beaches across Niagara, we opted for a different approach. We initially called this new approach VAST Anywhere, where we developed the protocol, which I'll show in the next slide, to allow participants to submit surveys anywhere along the Great Lakes, and they wouldn't have to wait for a station to be erected on a shoreline that they would want to monitor. So we developed a very simple protocol that anyone can use. All you need is a cell phone and a desire to walk on the beach. And once you're in an area, are very easy to understand guidance documents, run community scientists through every step of the process, through the survey, to the submission of the photos, to uploading all of that automatically to the mapping platform. On the mapping platform, users can visit it to see how the shoreline's doing. And then coastal managers can access the data to substantiate with evidence some of the shifting trends of the shorelines under their authority to more proactively manage them as a community resource. And we get some pretty amazing photos, and it doesn't hurt that it acts as a bit of a tourism tool. So participants can monitor their shorelines for nuisance split off or algae currently, as well as areas of ongoing erosion. They can track and assess the aesthetic quality of local beaches, and we also plan to launch several other survey modules over the next few years. The original prototype of VAST in 2020 and a pilot year in 2021 was, as Jeff mentioned, originally focused on the Lake Erie North Shore here in Niagara, but we've seen enormous community interest and uptake across the province. Community scientists are currently tracking shoreline changes on 3 of the Great Lakes across 70 distinct sites in this first year. Our outreach efforts never targeted these communities, and the program spread through word of mouth, indicating a very surprising and deep community appetite for monitoring the changing shorelines of the Great Lakes. While the majority of our surveys are coming in from Lake Erie, about a quarter are coming in from Lake Ontario on a regular basis. And while we do have many regions outside of Niagara coming online, obviously the bulk of our submissions are coming from within the Niagara region. They're predominantly on Lake Erie, but many spots on the Lake Ontario shoreline are of deep interest and concern to the Niagara community. So since June 2021, when we officially launched, we've received over 380 surveys, nearly 1,800 photos, and our volunteers have spent a combined total of over 500 hours monitoring in efforts to create what is quickly becoming the largest public repository of Great Lakes coastal information. So as volunteers have continued to monitor their shorelines, immeasurable value has been pulled from repeat surveys. As a participant visits a site, they determine a benchmark. So somewhere they're going to be monitoring week after week or whenever they go out to take a monitor. This allows us to track changes over time, even just through the photos. So I've included a series of images that have been taken by community scientists at Lakeside Park Beach in St. Catharines. And as you can see, as we cycle through them, you can detect the change in shoreline, even with things like beach grooming, with things like zebra mussels, water levels. And well, we're into the next one. This one is pretty shocking, but I've included this set of images from Reeves Bay to illustrate how important it is that we get these repeat surveys for areas that have either erosion or excessive algae washout. So from week to week, the washout can vary greatly due to circulation patterns, wind and current patterns, sunlight, and other factors. So it's crucial we collect enough data where we can begin to analyze trends and correlations. By
Cool.
collecting all of these images, it's really what we're really trying to do is eventually develop an AI tool, which is going to be really interesting, and we're going to get there. But it would utilize a process called photogrammetry, which will automatically detect the changes between the photos and be able to pull out immeasurable amounts of data, similar to big data analytics that are currently ongoing. And this is just a bit of an added treat. So we just saw Reeves Bay from the ground from our community scientists. And this is a very quick video illustrating the change from just one week to another, just using drone flights. So I took a quick screen capture.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this part personally, and we are getting very close to also pulling out information about changing shoreline morphology. So we can actually track erosion rates using drone technology and correlate that and cross-reference it with citizen science or community science submissions, which for a hazards perspective would be amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Trying to get off of here. Okay. We're getting close to the end, I promise. But in summation, BAST provides benefits for coastal managers as an adaptive coastal decision support tool. So it can provide useful information for setting environmental targets like reducing algae and reducing phosphorus in support of reducing algae. And it can allow us to take proactive actions to manage the shoreline. The project also benefits the public by providing information to beachgoers on site conditions so that they can make informed decisions about where they would like to interact with the Great Lakes, where they would like to go within Niagara. And it increases understanding of coastal issues like algae, like erosion, and it brings more support to ensuring that we have a healthy and resilient coast. And finally, decisions and actions undertaken as a result of our data collection can aid in improving water quality and wildlife health, can aid in slowing habitat loss from erosion by taking proactive measurements to stabilize the shoreline, which we've actually started doing this year in implementing nature-based shoreline solutions in some of the key areas where we've identified a lot of change, like Lorraine Bay in the city of Port Colborne. So getting involved is as easy as taking a walk on your favorite Great Lakes beach. To learn more about the program, to view the mapping platform, to get involved and to share it, you can visit our website at www.niagaracoastal.ca/BAST or follow us on social media. That's all I've got for today, but I would love to field some questions.
Thanks, Greg. Jeff, did you want to run a video before we do questions?
No, you guys can ask questions if you want right now.
Great. Does anyone have questions? Donna?
Of course I do. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I can.
Cool. So Gregory, that's awesome. You know, a picture says 1,000 words, right? You know, and I'm going to use it now before I go out looking for star pictures, right? I'm always like, oh, what's the shoreline look like before I go and set up my camera and drive half an hour. So yeah, that's amazing. You talked about, oh, what are they called now? Environment and Climate Change Canada being part of it. Have you hooked in or been able to hook in through them to the State of the Lakes ecosystem indicators?
Yes,
Right.
so this program actually is an ongoing development from the Environment Canada conducted their cumulative assessment of nearshore waters recently, and that's actually what helped form the collaborative.
Okay.
And so everything that we collect is fed back into that cumulative assessments and goes to support some of the ecosystem indicators that they developed.
Nice. All right, that's it. That's great. Good job.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Donna. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see hands waving. It's always a bit of a challenge with this.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
It's amazing how much community science, I was going to say citizen science, apparently that's outdated now, but how much it's evolved. from even 10 years ago. It's congratulations. This is amazing, all the tech that's pulling all this information together like that. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was just going to say two things before I load up the video here. One, Greg mentioned the connection to you know, the value to our role as a regulator with natural hazards. We are doing Great Lakes flood and erosion natural hazard mapping updates next year. So I will be very curious to see how this data provides value. I anticipate it holds a lot, and it's because it's so novel. So we'll be providing whatever we can to the coastal engineers that are selected to do that work. But the other thing Greg mentioned is the rapid changes on the lakes. And I just have a quick story to share about that because we were out together doing a promo video for Your Niagara, Cogeco kind of a thing. And it had been about 5 years since I've been at Long Beach myself. I used to take my kids there to go swimming when I was, you know, I've worked at the authority for 20 years, so I've had, you know, unfettered access for a long time. We could sit on the beach sand with our blankets and whatnot. When we got there, I was blown away. It's been about 5 years since I've been there. On the east side there, that whole beach is now cobble. I could not believe it. That's a drastic change. So that's just to put in everyone's mind in context why this program is so valuable in terms of what it's documenting, because it's happening literally right before our eyes, and it's alarming. So with that, I'm going to share the video, and hopefully it doesn't, you know, perform poorly. I've got it optimized, but if not, bear with me. Okay, so here we go. Oops. Optimize. Option of video. Share. Let's go large here. And play.
The Great Lakes are an incredible natural resource to the people of Niagara. We have Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, the Niagara River, and hundreds of kilometers of shoreline. The Visual Assessment Survey Tool, or VAST, is a citizen science initiative designed to engage coastal citizens, residents, beachgoers, and everyone in between in becoming active stewards of their shoreline. They're the people that are on the lake. They know what's happening, they know how it's changing, and they're the experts, and they can tell us what they're seeing. The Great Lakes are experiencing an unprecedented rate of change because of climate change, leading to shoreline erosion, nuisance algae blooms, and just a loss of habitat and species that are key to life in the Niagara region, a region so unique it's not found anywhere else in Canada. VAST is a result of the partnership formed between Niagara Coastal, Niagara College, and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority.
The Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority is happy to partner with the Niagara Coastal Community Collaborative to implement the VAST program along our shorelines. With our natural hazard management to protect life and property, the data that this system collects will help us manage these shorelines towards resiliency. In Niagara, we are fortunate to have two shorelines on the Great Lakes. These are treasured natural resources that are going under dramatic changes. The VAST program will help us monitor this in an effective, community-driven way.
VAST is a framework that's designed to engage coastal residents, visitors, beachgoers, and youth in contributing to an ever-expanding coastal monitoring network that can inform the public of how and where to interact with the Great Lakes. And on the back end, it can create a real-time coastal decision support tool that coastal managers like the NPCA, Environment Canada, and the people who need the data can use to address these burgeoning issues, to restore the shoreline, to preserve the shoreline, to do what we can for the habitats and species and people that call these Great Lakes home. The benefit of the VAST program is that it engages the people who are walking the beach, the people who know it better than we do, and the people who are seeing their favorite shorelines change and degrade due to climate change. It's extremely easy to get involved with VAST. All you need is a phone and a desire to walk on the beach. All we need is you to submit a couple of surveys, a couple of photos, and you've contributed to citizen science, and you've helped us address these issues.
do I stop sharing? There we go. All right, thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Thank you, Jeff. That's very, very nicely done. You should all be very proud of what you've done in a relatively short period of time, I believe. You know, often these things, I've dealt with them with the federal government in the past with citizen science projects, and it's taken a long time just to set them up, much less to be collecting this type of information at this rate already. So it's awesome. Nice.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we will move on then, and we do have to accept this presentation. So I will ask that Cindy Lee move, and Donna, if you could second on recommendation number PAC 33, 2021, that the presentation by Gregory Ford, Niagara Coastal Community Collaborative ReVast Visual Assessment Survey Tool be received. Thank you. Opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. So thank you again to Jeff and Gregory, and definitely look forward to updates in the future on your work. Very important. Okay, so we'll move on with our agenda. Item 6 is delegations, which we have none. Item 7, we have consent items. We have a report that's come to us. Report number FA 5721, MPCA Water Well Decommissioning Grant Program. And the Board of Directors for the MPCA has directed that this report be sent to MPCA's Public Advisory Committee for further outreach and to garner any advice from the Public Advisory Committee. So I guess the first thing that we'll do is ask if there are any comments or questions regarding this report. No? Okay. Always a challenge with this video that I'm not missing anyone. Please yell at me if I'm not seeing your hand or a message. I do have a couple of comments and questions regarding this. Unfortunately, we don't have a staff representative for me to ask the questions to. So I'm just going to ask that they be recorded, and that if we can get a response from staff in future date, that would be great. I'm understanding that the let's see, the well decommissioning is run on an annual basis with about, I believe, 10 or 12 applications every year. And what the MPCA is proposing is to increase their visibility on this program. And I guess my question is, do we have the capacity to deal with increased requests for money and for these applications? Because I understand that each one of them goes to a maximum, I believe, of $1,000. So that's something that I will be asking them. I assume that this has come to us so that we can help to spread the word and to share the information that this funding is available for well decommissioning. I will say for myself that I know that this is a very important program when it comes to aquifer contamination. Then having old wells and wells that are unused not being decommissioned is a huge risk when it comes to contaminating your aquifers and your near surface groundwater. So it is very important that we ensure that any wells that are either improperly installed or are older or not being used are properly decommissioned. So hopefully that information will be shared and that we can help in doing that. That being said, we are being asked to accept this as being received, so we will go on for recommendation number PAC 34, 2021. I'll ask that Kelsey move, and Michael is not with us. So I'll ask that Dion second, that the report number FA 5721, MPCA Water Well Decommissioning Grant Program be received. Is there any opposition? Go ahead, Don. No?
Sorry, no, I just had a question, right?
Yes, please. Sorry, I guess I missed the questions. Go ahead.
No, I didn't. I wasn't ready then. I'm slow. I know Josh knows about all the farm organizations, right? Like, you know, if I know not all the rural landowners are farmers, but you know, attending a soil and crop annual meeting or having that information available to both of those, you know, Niagara North and Niagara South people, you know, or even the grape growers or the tender fruit growers or, you know, the greenhouse growers, right? Through those organizations, like they're the people that are likely to have, you know, rural non-farm land or rural land that might have wells that need decommissioning. And I know we've promoted that in the past, but you know, maybe it's time to hit them up again. And I'm sure he's tried that, right? You know, I'm sure Jeff can tell me he does that all the time. So that's all.
Great. Thanks, Donna. Yes, definitely our rural reps here, both with landowners and with the agricultural community. And I guess another question that when you raise the ag community is that I know there certainly are different soil types as you go through the region. And I would be curious as to whether, as the interest and the uptake on this increases, whether there's any sorts of priorities as to, you know, if there's not enough funding available during a certain year, who would get first dibs? Because certainly when it comes to taking a look at the risk factors associated with groundwater contamination and these wells, then when you have, I'm thinking HVAs and SGRAs, they're basically source protection terms.
Yeah.
Then you know, you're going to have some areas that are going to be more susceptible to contamination than others, and depending on land use, et cetera, as well.
We've never promoted well water in Niagara. It's not great quality water for agricultural use, like even irrigation. So, you know, it's not like everybody has a well. I would say there are way more cisterns out there than wells. But, you know, I think the priority goes to the guy who wants to do it. I'm still of that kind of, you know, if somebody expresses an interest, he's a priority.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding is that there's hundreds of them out there, and I believe the report said there was like 107 that had been decommissioned. So that's a good start. But you know, it also is indicative that there's a lot more to be done. So certainly, you know, these are things that, as I say, if the uptake does increase, then these are questions that probably do need to be dealt with, either increasing the capacity from the budget perspective and or prioritizing what would come first and what would be most important. Okay, so we've made our comments, and if people could share, go ahead, Bruce.
Yes, thank you, Chair Oblick. Just a question. I'm hoping through you, staff might be able to give an answer. I'm looking at the map. Very informative, but the southern half of the watershed, southwest, southeast, very few or no wells been decommissioned in that area. Is that a function of that there are not wells in those areas, or what? If there's any answer to that. Thank you.
That's a good question. Again, it could be, as Donna said, you know, the water's not great in a lot of areas, especially with the clay. I would imagine that you're going deep and perhaps not getting good quality, and I don't know about quantity either, depending on whether you have confined aquifers. Certainly when you go north and you get into the more porous soils, and you know where the fruit growers are, and there's sand and you know areas that might, for whatever reason, have more historical wells that look like they've been decommissioned. But yeah, these are all questions. So perhaps what we can do is invite a staff member to share some more information on this. But we will take a look at this and we will receive it. And where was I with this now? Recommendation. Okay, you guys are confusing me. Recommendation number PAC 34, 2021. I think I asked that Kelsey move and Dion second that report number FA 5721 re NPCA water well decommissioning grant program be received. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you. I think we have some pretty good questions there to take forward. So as mentioned, that is an important program. I'm glad to see. Okay, moving on to item 8, discussion items. Report number PAC 0421, Republic Advisory Committee meeting dates for 2022. Carrie, I will pass this over to you.
Thank you, Chair Oblak. I'm just going to share my screen here. That way we have the meeting dates in front of us, so everybody can have a look at them. So this is the proposed meeting dates for 2022. Certainly happy to get any feedback on them. I did look at statutory holidays, things like March break, summer vacations, and also I had been provided a list from Kelsey and Cindy Lee, which I was thankful to have, of any days of significance from the Indigenous community. So this was my first attempt at putting together a list of dates for 2022. So happy to take any questions or get any feedback, or if you so choose to approve them.
Talking to myself, I often do that, but not good. Okay. Any questions or comments regarding our dates that are set for next year?
Nothing for me.
No? Okay. Seeing none, then let's move on. I will ask that Donna move, and I believe I saw Natalie second. Recommendation for, make sure I'm doing the right one, PAC 35 2021. That report, PAC 0421, Republic Advisory Committee meeting dates 2022 be received, and that the Public Advisory Committee approve the 2022 meeting dates found in Appendix 1, which we've just discussed. Any opposed? Seeing none, that will be carried. Thank you, Carrie, and don't go away because we have 8B. Report number PAC 0521, Draft Public Advisory Committee Meeting Plan 2022. I'll pass this again over to you.
Thank you, Chair Black. So I did meet with a number of different departments at the Conservation Authority to kind of get a layout of what the year ahead will look like in terms of big projects and things that may be coming forward to the PAC for consideration. So this was a first go at things. Targeted meeting dates are of course flexible depending on where we're at with projects and things like that. I did, I think, go through and take out any of the acronyms that were in there, but there was, I know that Jeff Verkay did note earlier about the Lake Erie Shoreline Hazard Mapping update that's coming forward. There's some restoration feasibility studies. There's some things coming forward from Natalie Green again through the Remedial Action Plan, land acquisition strategy. So just put it all in there. Some things are to be determined. Some things will have multiple touch points where we'll, come sort of like Steve Miller's been doing with the watershed group. First, we sort of introduce a project, then get input and feedback, and then go on for endorsement or approval. So this is what I have based on the meetings that I've had with staff, and happy to take any questions about this draft meeting plan.
Thanks, Carrie. Any questions for Carrie? Oh, this is chat.
And I did want to mention that earlier, I don't seem to have access to the chat. So if there's any, usually I read off the questions to you that come in through the chat, but it must see me as an outsider today. That's not even a member of the PAC that can address the comment section. So if there's anything in there, I can't see it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that does not pertain to this. Thank you. Okay, so if there are no questions, then we will ask that Natalie move and Jonathan second recommendation on number PAC 36, 2021. That report number PAC 0521, redraft Public Advisory Committee Meeting Plan 2022 be received, and that the Public Advisory Committee endorse the 2022 meeting plan found in Appendix 1 as discussed. Any opposed? And seeing none, that is carried. Thank you very much, Carrie.
Thanks, everyone.
We're going to be busy in the next year, which
We're
is
going to be busy.
Lots.
Yes, and there's yes,
yeah,
lots going on.
that's great. That's wonderful to see. Okay, so moving on, item 9, committee reports. We have none. 10A, new business. The CAO report, as noted, has been deferred until they can join us. And 10B is something that we're introducing, members update, verbal information and issues. This is just something that gives us all an opportunity to bring forward any types of new issues, anything that might be of interest to the PAC that you would like to share with us. So does anyone have anything in the way of information and updates for us for tonight? This is something that we're going to add, I think, to every meeting. It's just a great way to share what you might be seeing in your community and within your interests and within your sector. Okay, so we will continue to do that. I'm not seeing anyone who has contributions for this week, so we will move on to adjournment, item 11, and I'll ask that Cindy Lee move and Dion second our recommendation, number PAC 37, 2021, that the November 25th, 2021 NPCA Public Advisory Committee be adjourned. Any opposed? Thinking not. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, and we won't see you before Christmas, so have a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful holiday, however you celebrate, and we will see everyone, it's hard to believe, in 2022 with lots on the agendas, I'm sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, Chimigwich.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
All right. Have one.
Rest of the season. Stay well.
Marcy, thanks everyone. Take care. Have a good night.
Thanks, Kelsey. You too. Thanks, Jackie. Good job.
Thanks, folks. That was
Great job.
short and sweet.
I've captured your questions and I'll forward them on. Maybe we'll get Steve Miller to come back. I don't know how we want to address this, but we'll follow up anyway. We probably should have had him here tonight.
Yeah, it was my fault. I didn't review that early enough to put in that request, but I think that if he is looking for PAC input, that's probably a couple of things to consider anyways. Thank you very much, folks.